18 to 20% annual inflation in the next 2 to 3 years. I'd like to welcome back to the show for his fifth appearance here on the GRE podcast. Well, just the number one selling personal finance author of all time. He wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad in 1997 and has ruled the rich dad world ever since. It's a warm, get rich education. Welcome back to Robert Kiyosaki.
Thank you, Keith. Nobody's more surprised about the success of Rich Dad Poor Dad than me,
Yeah.
because it was turned down by every publisher in New York. And this was like Simon and Schuster and all these guys. And they said, "Why are you turning it down?" They said, "You don't know what you're talking about." It was consensus about the five editors of different book companies was what you're saying doesn't make sense. That's how strange it was back. And now it's the number one in the world.
This is often how it is when something strikes someone differently, like the Star Wars movies had difficulty getting traction because it was so unusual. And fortunately, Robert, today the consensus among readers has seemed that, oh my gosh, Rich Dad Poor Dad changed my thinking more than anything else. The contrarian thinker.
Story Rich Dad Poor Dad. My poor dad was an academic, PhD.
Yeah.
So he'd be the kind of guy that says your book makes no sense. Whereas my rich dad never went to school because his father died when he was 13 and he had to take over the family business. So much of a young person's life is predicated upon their parents, where the family, where the culture you come from. And I've been studying more of that. Like, let's say I was raised in Alabama, I'd have a Southern accent,
Yeah.
but because of the environment impresses it upon you. And it's the same as money. If a child is born into a poor family, or in my case, an academic family, then the value systems are all different. My family, and it's still true today, got to go to school, get a job, and get a pension with the government. That's their whole belief system. And they're so proud of this is my brothers and my uncles and all that. They're so proud when their child has what's called a GS and a government service pension. That's their whole idea on finance. Get that pension, job security.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. But a lot of times we can't hear something because of what's been compressed into us by our culture, our family. So my poor dad was always, you have to get your PhD. I said, for what? Gotta get a PhD. So my brothers and sisters, their kids are all getting their PhDs. It's fascinating.
Yeah, when your poor dad tells you you need to get your PhD and you're asking for what, maybe the answer was for him. So our parents, yes, they're often our first teachers.
It's just values, very different values. And the more I kind of study it, I don't think I'm a good student of it, but there's this thing called a paradigm matrix. And a paradigm matrix is what it's like a cookie cutter. So like father, like son, like mother, like daughter. So much of our lives are transferred by our parents and our schools and things like this. And so that's why Rich Dad, Poor Dad, for some people, it works. But when it first came out, 1997, as you said, it was strange. I said, savers were losers. And today everybody knows inflation is going through the roof. I said, your house is not an asset. I got hammered for that one.
Great.
And I said, rich don't work for money. Those are my three rich dad rules. Rich don't work for money. Savers are losers. And your house is not an asset. I built Rich Dad Poor Dad around those three rules. I said, I didn't follow them. My poor dad, those were his, I don't know what you call it, but those were his guiding lights. You have to have job security and you have to have a government pension. And my house is my biggest asset. And so you can't hear the person because you already have that paradigm matrix or that cookie cutter inside of you. This is my value system. So in my family, if I didn't get my PhD, I was stupid. I never got one, but anyway.
Just because you believe something for a long time doesn't make it true.
Correct. And what's happening, because I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I could see this economic times coming. 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And I knew at that time we were going to have hyperinflation. And you watch what's going to happen in the next few years. We're going to have hyperinflation that we've never seen before. And it's going to make the poor and middle class poorer. The rich will get richer, but poor and middle class will get poorer, tragically.
That is such an appropriate time to bring this up, Robert, because a lot of people are drawing parallels between the 1970s two waves of inflation during that decade and what's going on today. I mean, there is so much fuel now that could ignite higher inflation. You've got the cumulative effects of the Iran war and the energy shocks and bottled up supply chains. And Robert, I don't know if you've heard it yet, but you and I's mutual friend, Dr. Chris Martenson,
Oh
he
God,
recently, yeah, peak prosperity there. Chris Martenson, he recently said that he would not be surprised to see 18 to 20% annual inflation in the next 2 to 3 years. That's exactly what he said.
yeah. But it's good for those who have assets.
Right.
You see, when things inflate, like chickens and eggs and milk go up, but so do assets go up. Most of them, like gold and silver, will go up, but the purchasing of the dollar will come down. Inflation is a tax. That's all it is.
So much potential for inflation there. And a lot of this really ties in with debt, about how debtors can be enriched. Inflation. I think about the Cantillon effect, meaning that in inflationary times, those closest to the money printer win. And that usually tends to be governments, large banks, corporations with easy credit scores. But a lot of people don't realize that we can benefit from that too as everyday investors that use leverage, prudent debt.
Cantillon effect is basically, what interest rate can you get? How easy is money for you? And I use debt. I'm a billion two in debt, and that scares the crap out of most people. But I use debt to get rich, and most people use debt to get poor. And again, that's family, what your education says. So a lot has to do with early childhood development and all that stuff. The more I study it, it really goes back to before a child is like 15. The cookie cutter has been cut.
Yes, it goes back to not always having to believe everything that you think.
We all have access to education. I have my cash flow game here. I teach people how to use debt. And Dave Ramsey says, don't use debt. Well, he's a smart man too, Dave. I like him a lot. And most people should listen to Dave Ramsey. But if you're going to use debt, you'd better take some education. So to go a billion two in debt, man, you better know something. And most people are, people aren't living paycheck to paycheck. They're living credit card to credit card now and getting wiped out. I hate to laugh, but it's so obvious. You go, because they have no financial education. And that's why my book was turned down by all those academics in New York City, the publishers. So you don't know what you're talking about. I said, how can I say your house is not an asset? How can I say savers are losers? How can I say the rich don't work for money? And that's what I built Rich Dad Poor Dad on. And now it's been an international bestseller, #1 in the world for like 25 years.
It's so interesting that you bring up Dave Ramsey here, Robert. He often gets his followers to make a debt-free scream when they're debt-free. And you know what I think, Robert? For those that scream that they're debt-free, what they're doing is they're postponing screaming that they're job free or job optional. They could have been prudently leveraging dollars for profit instead, like you and I do.
Well, let me just say, Dave Ramsey's advice is good for most people. I'm saying if you're going to learn to use debt, if all you want is a job and a pension, you don't have to study that much. The biggest mistake I think ever made was that 401k. It's going to wipe out my boomer generation. It's going to decimate us. I wrote this book here, Who Stole My Pension? And that's where they're going to nail the boomers. They're finished because their pensions are going to get stolen. Their 401ks, their IRAs, they're finished. But they listen? No, they send their kids to school, to get their MBA and get a 401k.
Well, I kind of think when you have education around debt, you sort of understand this difference between productive debt and what I'll call ego debt. So can you talk to us more about what kinds of debt make people rich today and what kinds of debt can quietly destroy them?
Well, it should be Rich Dad Poor Dad, really. I'm serious. That's all it's about, really, is I use debt to get rich. And Dave Ramsey's advice is good for those who don't want to study. So if you're a PhD in microbiology and you're a doctor, Dave Ramsey's advice is good for you because you have no financial education. It's not between your right ear and your left ear. So I had to study debt. That's the difference. It's what we study.
And for those that are uninitiated on this, what we're talking about here, if you've got, say, $200K to invest in real estate, and real estate's going to go up 5% a year, Okay, if you pay all cash, you only have a 5% gain on your 200K. But if you get an 800K loan and now you invest in $1 million worth of real estate, you have that entire $1 million going up 5%, not just 200K, and you have the tenants servicing the 800K in debt for you. This is really the path to wealth through debt, which is counterintuitive.
You don't just get into debt. I mean, you've really got to understand debt. And real estate doesn't always go up. It's about to crash again. And I like crashes. Don't get me wrong. I love crashes because a crash in a stock market, bond market, real estate market is something going on sale. So like if Walmart had a sale, every poor person would run in there. But when the real estate market has a sale, all the poor people run away. So I like crashes. That's when you get rich. One's coming big time, big time.
Well, I want to learn more about that because residential real estate in our lifetimes has only fallen significantly one time. That was in 2008, and circumstances are so different today. Today, you have responsible lending and you don't have this oversupply that you had in 2008. So tell us more about a potential real estate crash. That's going to interest a lot of people.
Real estate crashes because the currency crashes. It's really the problem with the world today, and this is the whole world, is America is now what, the biggest debtor nation in world history?
Yeah,
39 trillion or something like that. And
great.
Japan's a bunch of idiots. And I'm Japanese, so I can say that. They save money. Why would you save money when Japan was the biggest money printer of all times? Do you know what I mean? That'd be like somebody, sticking water in your gas tank. Why would you go and fill up with water? But that's what the Japanese were doing. They're saving money. It makes no sense. I mean, I'm just a different person. I just didn't go to school like my family did. I mean, I have a college education and all that, but I studied different things after school. I studied debt. I studied real estate, and that's the big difference. So I'm $1.2 billion in debt. So in 2008, when the market crashed, I borrowed 30 million bucks and levered it up with $1.2 billion in debt.
Good timing.
You should not do what I do. Right? But I studied it since 1974. It's debt. Just like right now, today, we have oil going up. My college degree is in oil. I'm an oil tanker driver. I drove oil tankers with Standard Oil. I'm making fortunes today as the price of oil goes up. So, the more Netanyahu and Trump bomb Iran, terrible as it is, I'm getting richer. So you don't have to be poor, but you're poor because that gap between your left ear and your right ear is empty. You've been taught, well, inflation's bad. Well, inflation's good if you're holding oil or gold or silver or some real estate. Anyway, it's just most people have no financial education. That's why I created the cash flow board game, so you can have fun learning how to be rich. If you don't want to learn to be rich, then go to school and get your PhD.
Sometimes when people don't understand how real estate debt benefits them, one way I've helped people understand, Robert, is that say you have a loan balance of 112K on a piece of real estate today. That feels really small. It almost feels like something that you can pay off with what you have in your savings account. But if you go back 30 years, when the median home price is 140K, 80% debt on that would have been 112K. So here, 30 years later, with your 30-year fixed rate loan, you still just have that 112K in debt while the median home price is over 400K. And that's even if you hadn't made a principal payment at all. So it's really a way to visualize how inflation starts shrinking the real weight of our debt over time.
My advice is I would study debt. So I take real estate courses. I'm always studying. I'm studying constantly because the markets are changing so quickly. The biggest problem today started in 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So we're the biggest debtor nation in world history. I think we're going into a depression right now. So a depression plus AI coming along is going to wipe out jobs. I'm going to get richer. What are you going to do? So I'm already planning for the future. The people that get rich can see the future. So when you say, well, back in 2008, it only crashed for a little while. Okay, so what? And history has proven ever since in 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. Every nation has collapsed who did that. The Chinese did it, the Romans did it, the Greeks did it, Germans did it. They print money. And so that's the real issue. It's not debt, but it's also the economic macro problems that keep going into the world. The dollar's coming down. And I'm afraid that we're going into a global depression. I hope I'm wrong, Like Grant Cardone and I have fights all the time about it, because he's a big proponent of that real estate always goes up. It doesn't always go up.
Right.
It doesn't always go up. The stock market doesn't always go up. The bond market's crashing. Everybody says, oh, bonds are safe. The bond market's in the biggest bubble in world history. We're going into a depression. So what are you going to do about it? I'm afraid America's going to crash because we've taken on Iran. And Iran's a powerful, powerful force out there. I'm not in favor of it, but everybody who's messed with Iran's got kicked. So just know that. Let's just look at history. You can see the future, but you have to be careful in the history you follow. So in 1971, I was on an aircraft carrier in Vietnam. And my rich dad wrote me a letter. I was a Marine helicopter pilot. Went down 3 times. And my rich dad wrote me a letter. Says, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. Watch out. And immediately I started buying gold. So I started buying gold at $50 an ounce. Today is what, 4 or 5,000.
Yeah.
The trouble with gold is you pay high taxes on it. You can understand taxes too. Good luck to learn, Keith. I study constantly.
You can watch this one next.